found cash I had given my parents to pay for my sister's education. It's not what you think, parents said, but I didn't believe and cancelled family vacation in Europe. I gave my sister $33,000 for her 18th birthday. It wasn't just a gift, it was an investment in her future. Kelly had just gotten into a good university, and I wanted her to start her adult life without the crushing weight of student loans. I knew what that felt like, and I didn't want that for her. My job paid well enough, and I didn't have anyone who depended on me financially. Giving her the money felt like the right thing to do. But it wasn't just the money. It was what it represented. Kelly had always been the smart one, the one we all believed would make something of herself. She had dreams of being a journalist, of traveling the world and writing stories that mattered. I believed in her. I wanted her to focus on that dream without worrying about how to pay for it. But my job kept me busy. I work in logistics, and that means I travel a lot. I'm gone for weeks or months at a time, bouncing between countries, dealing with supply chain issues. I didn't get to see my family much, and honestly, I didn't even check on Kelly's progress. I trusted her and my parents. I knew she was in school, and I assumed everything was going well. My mom would sometimes mention in our brief phone calls that Kelly was doing well, and that was good enough for me. After 6 months on the road, I decided it was time for a break. I'd planned something special, a big family trip to Europe. It was going to be the kind of trip you only dream about. Business class flights, luxury hotels, tours of every city we visited. Everything on me. I thought it would be a great way to reconnect with everyone and show them how much I appreciated them. I wanted it to be a surprise, so I didn't tell anyone I was coming home. I showed up unannounced one Friday night, dragging my suitcase through the front door like some kind of intruder. My mom gasped when she saw me, but then she pulled me into a tight hug. My dad came out of the kitchen, and even Kelly ran downstairs with a big grin on her face. We all sat around the table, laughing and catching up. When the time was right, I dropped the news. "I have a surprise for you," I said. "Pack your bags. We're going to Europe next month. All of us. Everything's on me." For a moment I thought they didn't believe me. My dad raised his eyebrows, my mom looked like she was going to cry, and Kelly just sat there stunned. But then the excitement started. My dad started listing places he'd always wanted to visit. My mom asked if she needed to renew her passport, and Kelly couldn't stop smiling. It felt good to be home, to do something for them. After dinner, I grabbed my bag and headed upstairs to my old room. As I passed my parents' bedroom, I noticed something. Their door was ajar, and on the shelf between some books I saw stacks of cash. Not just a little cash, 3 stacks of bills, neatly bundled. At first I thought it was strange, but harmless. Maybe they were saving up for something? But as I got closer, I got a sinking feeling. The bundles weren't random. They were exact, 3 stacks of $10,000 each and a smaller stack of $3,000. My stomach turned. It couldn't be. 6 months ago, I'd given them $33,000 for Kelly's college tuition. The math was too perfect. I reached out, grabbed one of the stacks, and flipped through the bills. They were new. Crisp. Just like I'd given them. I stood there, frozen, my mind racing. Why was the money still there? Was Kelly not at school? What the hell was going on? I carried one of the stacks downstairs and put it on the kitchen table. My parents immediately stopped talking, their eyes glued to the money as if it were going to explode. "So," I said, my voice sharper than I intended, "Kelly's not going to college? Then what's the money for?" The room fell silent. My parents stared at the money on the table, and I could feel the tension building. Kelly, who had been scrolling through her phone, froze as well. "Are you going to explain?" I asked, looking between the 3 of them. "Because this sure as hell looks like the $33,000 I gave you 6 months ago. And if it's still here, what's Kelly been up to? She's not in school, is she?" My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. My dad rubbed his neck and avoided my eyes. Kelly looked down at the floor, her face turning red. "Look," my dad finally said. It's not what you think. Oh, really? Then what is it? I said, my voice rising. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you lied to me. All of you. My mom jumped in. We wanted to tell you, but dash. But what? I cut her off. You thought I'd never find out? You thought I wouldn't come home and find $33,000 just sitting on a shelf? What the hell is going on? We were saving it, my father said quickly. For what? They exchanged a look that made it clear they were searching for something to say. For Kelly, my mom said. We kept it for her. For something else. Something she needed. Something else? Like what? Because the last time I checked, she needed school. Kelly finally spoke up, her voice soft. It's not her fault. It's my fault. I turned to her, trying to keep my cool. What do you mean? She hesitated, then said, I didn't go to school. There it was. The confirmation I'd been dreading. My stomach sank. So you didn't go? I said slowly, trying to process. And you didn't bother to tell me? I was going to, but I dash. But you didn't, I interrupted. You let me think you were at school all the time. You let me give you this money, thinking I was helping you with your future, and instead... I gestured at the money. Instead, this is just sitting here. What the hell, Kelly? She looked like she was going to crawl under the table. I didn't know how to tell you, she said. You didn't know how to tell me what? My parents jumped in again, trying to defuse the situation. We were saving it for something important, my dad said. Like what? What's more important than her education? I snapped. What could be so important that you lied to me and made me think everything was okay? There was another long, awkward silence. Then my mother finally said, We were saving for a car. Kelly needed a car, and we thought. I couldn't believe it. A car? I said, laughing bitterly. You mean to tell me that instead of using that money for her education, you sat on it for 6 months to buy her a car? My mother tried to explain. We thought it would be better for her to have something practical. I cut her off. You thought a car was more practical than a degree? Are you serious? Kelly looked up at me with tears in her eyes. It's not a car, she said softly. What? It's not a car, she repeated, her voice stronger this time. I frowned. Then what is it? She looked at my parents, who both looked uncomfortable. Finally, she said, It's something else. But it's not a car. I stared at her, waiting for an answer, but she didn't say anything. Whatever it was, it wasn't good. I crossed my arms and leaned against the table, staring at her. Okay, Kelly. If it's not a car, what is it? Because I'm running out of patience. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat. My parents looked at her like they were silently begging her not to say anything, but I wasn't going to let that go. Speak, I said firmly. Kelly finally broke down. It's for an apartment, she admitted. An apartment? I repeated, completely thrown. What are you talking about? You live here. Why do you need money for an apartment? My dad tried to jump in again, but I stopped him with a look. No. Let her explain. Kelly swallowed hard. I didn't want to go to college, she said. I know you were trying to help, but college, it wasn't for me. I didn't want to disappoint you, so I let you think I was going, but I've been working instead. I've been saving up to move out, and Mom and Dad have been helping me with the money you gave me. Working? Doing what? I asked. Retail, she said. At the mall. I stared at her, trying to wrap my head around this. You've been working at a mall for 6 months and lying to me about going to school? And instead of using that money for your future, something that could actually set you up for life, you've been sitting on it for an apartment? It's my life, she said defensively. Your life? I shot back. You don't get to use my money to play house, Kelly. That money was for your education, not so you could go to college and move out. My mom stepped in again. We didn't mean to upset you, she said. She's trying to figure things out. It's not what you think. Stop saying that, I snapped. It's exactly what I think. You all lied to me. You let me believe she was in college, and meanwhile the money I worked my ass off to save for her is sitting on a shelf like it's Monopoly money. Kelly looked at me with tears in her eyes. I didn't ask for that money, she said. You gave it to me. And I gave it to you because I thought you had a plan, I said. Not to waste it on God knows what. The room fell silent again, the weight of the argument weighing on all of us. Finally, I stood up. You know what? Forget the trip. Forget Europe. I'm taking the money back. Kelly's eyes widened. What? No, you can't, Dash. I can and I will, I said. If you're not going to use it for what it was meant for, then it doesn't belong to you. End of story. My dad started to protest, but I didn't care. I turned on my heel and marched back upstairs, grabbing the other stacks of money off the shelf. I stuffed them into my bag, zipped it up, and came back downstairs to see Kelly crying and my mom trying to comfort her. My dad just looked defeated. I stood in the doorway. If you wanted help, you should have asked. If you didn't want to go to school, you should have told me. But lying to me? Hiding this? I can't trust any of you right now. Kelly sobbed harder, and my mom gave me a pleading look. Please don't do this. She needs the money, Dash. For what? I asked. For a lease she probably won't be able to afford after the first year? For some fantasy about moving out? No. It was for her education. If she doesn't want it, fine. But she can't use it for anything else. Not after all this. I turned and walked out the door, my bag slung over my shoulder. I needed time to think. I needed to figure out what to do with this mess. But one thing was clear, the faith I had in my family? It was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my hotel room with the bag of money on the floor, my mind racing. Everything felt wrong. I was angry, sure, but underneath I was confused. Kelly had always been the responsible one, the one with her head on straight. This wasn't like her. And my parents, why would they go along with this? I couldn't just let it go. I needed answers. The next morning I went back to the house. They didn't seem surprised to see me when I knocked on the door. My dad let me in, but no one said a word. Kelly was sitting on the couch, her eyes puffy from crying, and my mom looked like she'd been waiting for round two. I need the truth, I said, dropping the bag on the coffee table. All of it. No more lies, no more excuses. What's really going on? My mom and dad exchanged a look, and then Kelly broke the silence. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd be mad, she said. But I'm not just moving out. I'm moving in with someone. I frowned. What? Who? Kelly hesitated and then said, Nick. It took me a second to place the name. Nick was her high school boyfriend, the guy she'd been seeing on and off for years. I hadn't thought much of him. He was the kind of kid who barely got by in school and never seemed to have a plan for his life. You're moving in with Nick? I said, trying to keep my voice calm. She nodded. We've been planning it for a while. He's been saving too, and we've been looking at apartments. But I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd think it was a mistake. A mistake? Of course it's a mistake. What does he even do for a job? He finds things out, she said, avoiding my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Figuring things out? Kelly, are you serious? You're dropping out of school and spending all that money to move in with a guy who doesn't even have his life together? It's not like that, she said defensively. He works in his dad's auto shop. He has a plan, okay? I sat down and tried to take it all in. This is crazy. You're throwing everything away for some guy. It's not just for him, she said quietly. It's for us. I love him. I ran my hand over my face, trying to calm myself. Kelly, I don't even know what to say to you right now. I don't even have words. Then my dad, who'd been quiet the whole time, finally spoke. It's not just Nick, he said in a low voice. I turned to him. What does that mean? He looked uncomfortable, but continued. There's something else you don't know. What? I said, narrowing my eyes. Kelly spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I stared at her, my mind racing. You're what? I'm pregnant, she repeated, tears in her eyes again. That's why we saved for the apartment. We need our own place. We can't stay here with Mom and Dad. I didn't know what to say. My head was spinning. This wasn't just about money or school anymore, this was her whole life changing in ways I hadn't expected. My mom chimed in, her voice shaking. We didn't want you to find out this way. We tried to be supportive, to help her figure things out. She didn't want to tell you because she didn't want to disappoint you. I sat back, stunned. So that's it, I said. You're throwing away school, your future, everything for this? Kelly nodded and wiped her eyes. I know it's not what you wanted from me. But it's my life, and it's what I've chosen. I love Nick, and I'm going to have this baby. I wish you could support me. I looked at her, at my parents, at the bag of money on the table. Everything I thought I knew about my sister, about my family, felt like it had been turned upside down. I didn't know what to do or how to feel. Give me some time to think, I finally said as I stood up. I need to figure out what the hell I'm going to do about all this. They didn't stop me as I walked out the door. And for the second time in 24 hours, I left feeling like I didn't recognize my family anymore. I didn't go straight back to the hotel. Instead, I found myself parked in a parking lot near the mall, staring at nothing in particular, my mind racing. Pregnant? Move in with Nick? Dropping out of school? How had things gotten so out of hand without me even knowing? I wasn't just angry anymore, I was sad. I'd spent my whole life working my ass off so my family wouldn't have to struggle. I wanted Kelly to have opportunities that I didn't have. But here she was, throwing it all away for a guy who was barely getting by at best. And a baby? At her age? It seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. I stayed in the car for hours, replaying it all in my head. Eventually I decided to go back to the hotel and just sleep on it. But when I walked into the lobby, I saw something that stopped me cold. Nick. He was sitting in one of the lounge chairs near the bar, hunched over with a beer in his hand. For a second I thought I was imagining things. But no, it was him. He hadn't seen me, so I just stood there and watched. He wasn't alone. A woman was sitting across from him, leaning in close. She had long dark hair and was wearing a red dress that screamed, "Date night." They were laughing, and I could see that her hand was on his arm. I felt my blood pressure rise. This was the guy Kelly was throwing her life away for? The guy she loved? And here he was, cozying up to some woman in a bar? I walked over before I could talk myself out of it. Nick looked up as I approached, his face contorting in surprise and then panic. Well, I said, my voice cold. Nick. What a coincidence. He froze like a deer caught in the headlights. Oh, hey, man. I didn't know you were in town. Sure, I said, glancing at the woman. She stared at me like I was a stranger who'd just crashed her private party. Nick fumbled, clearly trying to recover. This is my friend Vanessa. We were just catching up. Vanessa raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Catching up, I repeated, glaring at him. Funny. Does Kelly know you're catching up with Vanessa tonight? Or does she think you're at work or doing something responsible for once? Nick's face went pale. It's not like that, he said quickly. Really? I said. Because it sure looks like it. Vanessa, obviously uncomfortable, grabbed her purse. You know what? I think I'll leave you two to whatever this is. She got up and walked away without looking back. I waited until she was gone, then sat down across from Nick. Start talking, I said. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Look, man, it's not what it looks like. Vanessa's just an old friend. That's all. Cut the crap, I said. Kelly's pregnant. She's about to drop 30 grand to move in with you, and you're out here drinking with someone else? You want to tell me what's really going on? He looked like he wanted to leave. I didn't want it to happen this way, he said quietly. What, the pregnancy? Or this little scene here? Both, he admitted. Kelly told me about the money and I thought. I don't know. I thought it would make things easier. But now it's all messed up. Messed up how? I asked, leaning in. What are you hiding, Nick? He hesitated, and for a second I thought he might not answer. But then he said something I hadn't expected. I'm in trouble, he said. I stared at him. What kind of trouble? Money trouble, he said. I owe some people. It's bad. How bad? He looked around, as if afraid someone might overhear. 10 grand. Maybe more. I got in over my head, and now they're coming after me. I sat back, the pieces starting to come together. So what? You're going to use Kelly's money to bail yourself out? No, he said quickly. I wouldn't do that to her. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Because it seems like you're already doing it. Kelly's risking everything for you, and you're sneaking around with friends and running from debts. You're dragging her down with you, and you don't even care. I care, he said, his voice desperate. I love her, man. I swear. I shook my head and stood up. If you really loved her, you'd stay the hell away from her. She deserves better than this. He said nothing, just looked down at his beer. I turned and walked away, my hands clenched into fists. I had a lot to think about and a hell of a mess to clean up. The next morning I returned to the house. This time I wasn't angry, I was determined. I sat everyone down and told Kelly what I'd seen, Nick at the bar, the woman, and his confession about the debt. She didn't want to believe it at first, but I stayed calm and told her the truth. He's in trouble, Kelly. And he's dragging you into it. You deserve better than this. It took her a while, but she finally broke up with him. It wasn't easy, she cried for days, but I think deep down she knew it was the right thing to do. Afterwards, we talked about her future. She admitted that she didn't want to go to college, but she had always loved photography. Together, we found a certification program that would help her turn her passion into a career. The money I'd given her went toward the program and some camera equipment, with the rest saved for when she was ready to strike out on her own. She threw herself into her work and began to build a portfolio. Seeing her finally get excited about something was worth it. A year later, she was doing freelance gigs and loving it. Around that time, the family trip to Europe finally happened. It wasn't as extravagant as I had first planned, but that didn't matter. We spent 2 weeks laughing, exploring, and making up for lost time. Looking back, I'm glad I caught it all when I did. Kelly is now on a path she's proud of, and the money I gave her is making a real difference. In the end, we found our way back as a family, and that's what matters most.